Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. This is Property Management 101. In today's video, we'll be reviewing the 3 most common mistakes that leasing agents make. This video will apply to anyone that currently is in a role that has a big percentage of their job that is geared towards leasing and sales, or for someone who's a supervisor of someone in this role. Regardless of the demographic type or asset type, if you have this dynamic, this video will be very helpful. Now, with this video, there's a couple different additional videos I'll be mentioning later on, so stay tuned for those as well. The number one thing to keep in mind too when it comes to this is that a lot of different companies have different labels or different titles for this position. I've seen things like leasing manager, leasing agent, leasing consultant, leasing director, sales manager, etc. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to be referring to as a leasing agent, as from my experience, that is the most common title for this job. But I do think that this video applies to anyone that has those additional titles that I mentioned a short time ago. And the first common mistake that I often see from leasing agents is they do not perform enough follow-ups. So for any prospects that have toured or shown interest in the community, one of the mistakes that I often see, and is by far the most common mistake I see, is leasing agents simply do not perform enough follow-ups to close the deal and to provide a high-level service. And what I mean by provide a high-level service, if you think about it from this perspective, when someone inquires about your community or the unit you have available, or maybe just looking around, they're simply trying to determine, is this the right place for them or not? That's it. And I believe as a leasing agent's job, your job is to help them determine that. So providing enough follow-ups will allow them to think of questions, ask questions, get answers, possibly schedule a tour. So these are the types of things to keep in mind when you're providing follow-ups, is you're just simply helping them determine if this is the right place for them or not. Also, keep in mind from this perspective, from a service perspective, by you following up just allows them the floor to ask and think of questions. And I feel like too often, if you call someone the first time or the second time, they may not be ready for that call. But if you call them that third, fourth, or fifth time, they're probably going to be more prepared for that call, have some questions they thought about, give some things some thought, and allow to get those and collect those answers from you as the leasing agent or the professional in this situation. Some statistics I've seen time and time again that I think are very beneficial when it comes to providing enough follow-ups that is needed. So 80% of all sales happen from the 5th contact or more. So 80% of the time when a sale is made, that is going to be the 5th or more time a contact is made. So keep that in mind when it comes to providing follow-ups. That's probably not going to be the 1st through the 4th time that you contact them. Most of the time it is going to be that 5th or more time that really takes for them to make a decision. And the other thing to keep in mind from a statistics standpoint that I think is so helpful, only 2% of the time a prospect will make a decision off the first contact. 2%, that's it. Most of the time they have maybe called before, toured the property multiple times, or emailed with someone. It's going to be very rare. Someone's going to see your property or inquire for the very first time and make a decision that very first time. Will it happen? Of course. But is it going to happen regularly? Probably not. So that's something to keep in mind with those 2 statistics that I think will be helpful as far as your expectation. The second most common mistake I see that leasing agents make, not recognizing a prospect's needs and wants. When you first have that first contact with that prospect, your goal should be to determine what are they needing and wanting from a housing perspective. Now, sometimes this may be over the phone for the first time, or they'll come into your office for the first time, and you should also be asking some questions to try to pull this out of them early on. Sometimes when a prospect may call or come into your office, they may not provide a lot of information what they're looking for, or if they do, it's very little. Maybe just the bedroom type they're looking for, the move-in date, a price range, things like that. But asking them some additional follow-up questions. Are you planning on bringing a pet? Is it you and anyone else moving into this unit? Are you interested in a particular floor? Are you interested in a particular location on our property? Are you interested in particular amenities? Will really help you give them the proper information that they're looking for while they're inquiring if this is the right property for them or not. And a pro tip that I would keep in mind for today's video is early on in that relationship with that prospect, you should be asking more questions than you are providing details about your property. This will be very helpful to gain as much information as you can. I think far too often as leasing agents, we tend to be We're so proud of our communities that we're trying to provide all this information. And I think what's helpful is take a step back in those early moments, ask them, what are you looking for today? And ask them some additional follow-up questions that will allow you to learn more about them and to better present them what you have available, as well as that higher level service that I think that will really bring a lot of value to that prospect. If you're learning something new and enjoying this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications. And the last thing that I often see leasing agents make a mistake on is not inspecting the model and or model path. And I know oftentimes when I've talked to leasing agents, they have the mentality, unfortunately, that the model and model path, the upkeep of those areas, are not their responsibility. Now, I believe this is a bad mentality and a bad ownership mentality when it comes from a leasing agent's part. Ensuring that the model and model path are always walked and they're showing well is going to be vital to that team's success as far as keeping and showing those in the condition and standard of the property. And I'm not necessarily suggesting that, hey, if they need cleaned or need painted, that leasing agent's responsible for that. But I do think communicating that to the appropriate staff, making sure you're adding work orders if needed, or whatever your company policy is on that, I think is what the piece that I'm referring to that is a mistake that I see far too often from a leasing agent's perspective. Two additional videos that are helpful on this topic that I mentioned earlier on this video are my videos that are titled Model Path and Managing Model Units. I'm going to provide those links to those videos in the description. If you've not already done so, please make sure you watch my disclosure video as well as my why do this video. I will also provide those links in the description as well. If you enjoyed this video and learned something new, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications. And if you have any questions about this video or any of my videos, feel free to leave a comment. I'll be happy to address it for you. Happy leasing!